Oh, this is awful. Oh, we're up. We're live. We are live. And can you see us? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. We've been live for about 30 seconds and had no idea. Welcome to this live stream. We're using new software. This is what happens sometimes. I'm Brittany from AJ and Smart. Thanks so much for joining us. We are going to do kind of a special thing today. We're going to actually look into a few of our favorite apps. And I have senior product designers with me, and we're going to kind of critique them. You know, we're going to talk about what we like about them, what we don't like about them, what we think they should do next, what they definitely shouldn't do, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be fabulous. So I have Dee here.
Hi.
Dee is a product designer extraordinaire. She does all of our trainings. She trains people around the world on design sprints and innovation stuff. So a very big brain.
You wouldn't know.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I said that, but it's true. And then we also have Tim here, and
Hi,
Tim,
everyone.
Tim is a product design director. So he is running sprints with some of the biggest companies in the world. So he's seen his fair share of products. So before we dive in, guys, I would love to ask you a couple of questions. So firstly, how many apps do you guys both use on a daily basis? Or how many digital products, I should say?
Should I go first?
Yeah, sure.
It's not a lot, to be honest. I mean, I tried to turn my phone to this distraction-free iPhone thing that Jake Knapp came up with. And I mean, the number of apps I use every day, I can probably count them on one hand. Like, it's probably not more than 4, I would say.
Yeah.
However, that changes when a sprint is coming up. That when I have to do research on products, I usually like download a lot of stuff and just like try it out.
Yeah.
So then like at the end of the sprint, usually I get rid of it, but sometimes some stuff actually sticks and I keep using it.
Cool.
But like
only
on a
like
day-to-day basis, maybe it's like 3 to 4.
That
I
is
would
not
say.
very many.
Yeah.
Dee?
That is, mine's many more. But I think I'm actually also really, maybe compared to the average, using not so many apps. But then if you've got an iPhone, you've got this app called Screen Time, where you can actually just see all the apps that you've opened. And I'm like, yeah, me too. But then I'm like, wait, I checked the weather in the morning. I maybe used my public transport app to get a ticket to come to work, or maybe I can see my scooter sharing app that I use. I use Google Maps. I use Foursquare. I use Facebook to check an event this morning that someone invited me to. WhatsApp for messages. Facebook Messenger for messages. So actually, I thought I was, and Slack, of course,
Like
for
what,
work
like
conversations.
15?
Yeah, so it must be something like 15,
Yeah.
20 altogether.
That's a lot, actually.
And my sleep timer as well that I check in the morning, my sleep tracker.
So this
Yeah.
is really interesting because I think you're on the heavy side.
My alarm clock, when I turned it off in the morning, was using an app. Yeah.
That's true, yeah. But Tim's on the lighter side. So this will be interesting if you guys have different perspectives on what you like look for in a product. Would you consider yourselves early adopters?
I think I'm pretty informed on things that happen, but I am usually pretty hesitant to try out new stuff just for the sake of it. It's a big commitment, I think. Like very often you just need to invest time to get into something new. And I mean, just by the nature of having to do research for sprints, I would say I have to be aware of new products coming out, and I find them interesting. It's just that my interest pretty much stops after I've learned what I needed to learn, and then I kind of like get rid of it.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And I think I don't have a really broad, like, oh my gosh, I have to try everything new. But as soon as something's new, like I'm thinking 2 years ago, there was a new scooter sharing service in Berlin. I was like right in there. Like,
You jumped on
we're in
it.
the beta
Yeah.
version. And then also this car share, sounds like I just drive everywhere all the time. This,
Sorry.
this new car sharing where you can share other people's cars on weekends when they don't use it.
Oh,
It's really
wow.
good. So I tried that, and that was also just in that first. So as soon as I hear something that's brand new, like that I want to use, I'm just straight in there.
Okay, cool. And then really quickly, how do you actually discover new products? Are you actively looking for them, or do you hear about them from people or on websites or
People, I hear about things.
People.
Yeah,
I'm not browsing
yeah. Often people in the office
internet all the
actually.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, our
Yeah.
office is we're always
Our
hearing about products.
product designer Fedor always knows the coolest new apps for some reason.
does,
I don't know
yeah.
how he does it, but he's always he's the first to know when something cool happens.
So Fedor, basically.
true.
Fedor and probably like Tech News, The Verge, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fedor and The Verge.
The Verge.
Yeah.
Or through Tim, through The Verge.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it
Exactly.
gets to
Yeah.
me.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right, so let's dive in then. We're going to actually look at some of Tim's favorite apps and some of Dee's favorite apps and kind of just talk through them. And feel free to ask any questions you might have or comment on some things. If you're like, hey, there's a way better app, you should try this one, whatever, let us know.
Yeah.
So what's your first app, Dee?
Okay,
Tell us.
so I've got some stuff to show. I'm picking up the phone. I tried. There were lots of things. I tried to think of ones that I use all the time and really like, but there's also super annoying things that I want to kind of talk about. So I'm going to start with Google Maps. Everyone, well, at least most people I think use Google Maps all the time,
sure,
some kind of map to get around, to find places for sure. But there was this particular thing that I think they don't do very well, and I wanted to talk about, which is this kind of explore thing. And especially if we look at, say, just restaurants, and then you get, okay, you've got some like recommendations nearby, you see ratings and stuff there, but on this map view is what I really want to see. Like, usually I'm on the street and someone's like, oh, let's go get some food, or hey, do you know a good cafe nearby?
Yeah.
And I want to see on the map where things are. So this now isn't actually telling me so much. In fact, I know, this is where we are right now on this map, I know there's a bunch of restaurants,
in between all
really good ones, like aren't on here. There's umami, there's the pasta, there's all these places that aren't coming up. Why not? I don't know. Also, it's not actually giving me any information. It's just saying red dot, restaurant here, not what kind of food it is or what the rating
Like you're a
of it is.
robot and it's just like food here. Yeah.
Yeah, food now,
Doesn't
please.
matter what it is.
So then in comparison, I want to go to Foursquare, which I use all the time, and I'm always...
This is really, I'm curious. Like, first of all, Tim, do you use Foursquare?
I used to, yeah.
You used to. I think that's
I
most people.
stopped using it a couple of years ago when they made that big split where they suddenly had two apps. I think, Swarm and Foursquare.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to have like two apps for basically the same thing. So that I kind of like stopped using it. But I actually agree that the stuff, like sometimes when I'm going to a new place, like traveling for work or something, I actually download Foursquare again just because I know that the recommendations on Foursquare are actually way more interesting and relevant to me than the stuff on Google Maps.
You don't want to waste your time just trying to walk by a place and, it's not that good, but now I've wasted my one evening.
But people always, like Dee and I were talking, people always make fun of us for using Foursquare. I would be so curious if you guys want to say in the comments, do you use Foursquare?
Yeah. Or do you actively hate it?
Yeah, exactly.
But I love it because literally just like this, I can say I want to have lunch near me, and I've got very clear ordered list showing with the coloring, also showing me what are the most interesting places that I should look at first, as opposed to Google Maps, which has far fewer. I don't know why, and there's no information about which one might be the best one to look at first. So with Google Maps, I literally have to like tap here and look at this one, and tap here and look at this one, and tap here and look at this one. And then with Foursquare, I can just easily say, oh, well, look, that's number one, and it's right next to me, so I'm going to check that one out.
Yeah.
And, oh, no, thanks. And then I can see all these other ones. So this was a really big point. I just want to look at my notes now to check if there was something else that I really wanted to say.
I think
You
it's
want to say something,
yeah.
Tim?
I think it's interesting that for a company like Google that wants to like organize all the knowledge in the world to actually do a pretty bad job compared to Foursquare just on that alone is interesting because I mean there's probably stuff that I would never go to Foursquare to that Google is really excellent at. It's just that just because Foursquare is so focused on doing one thing really well, and they're only doing that thing, they actually can compete against Google, and I think that's pretty interesting.
This other point I wanted to make was that at the big Google conference, Google I/O just recently, they announced this new thing where Google Lens, which is this kind of AI part of Google Maps, I think. I hope I get that right. That they have this new feature where you can be in a restaurant and you can kind of just scan or just hold your phone over the menu and get all these photos and recommendations and tips and things of that restaurant from
That's very
from
cool.
it sounds really cool, right?
Yeah.
But then why aren't they putting energy into making the restaurant part of Google Maps actually worth using so that people use it and post photos and get ratings and give ratings? So that was really curious for me.
I guess it's also because I mean Google is really good at like getting all that almost like data that can actually be collected by machines, but when it comes to the enjoyment of a restaurant, you can't just send a robot to a restaurant, and you actually have to rely on users giving you that information.
Yeah.
And I personally use Google Maps as a utility to get around.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily see it as a community thing where I actually enjoy giving reviews on stuff.
Yeah.
And
And do you trust? Like, I don't trust the Google reviews. I never trust them.
No, me too.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is that the Google Maps ratings of places are always way higher than Foursquare, for
Always.
example,
Yeah.
because I don't know why actually, but I trust Foursquare so much more. And this is also cool, like you can draw in Foursquare and say, okay, I just want to have dinner by the river, so show me the places by
That's
the river.
cool.
It's
That's
so great.
very cool.
that's actually really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't use it that much, but it's really cool. Oh, I can draw in my app. Did you have anything else about Google Maps?
I don't know. No, not really. I mean, I think what Google Maps, like I use Google Maps pretty often when I'm going to some place in the city I've never been before, because Google Maps is really good at telling you the best and most efficient way to get there. And I guess that's where Google is really, really good, because I mean, they can, like actually make the calculations and everything. And with machine learning and all of that stuff, it's actually really easy for them to give you that information quite reliably and also like up to date. So they would also show you when like a train is coming late, and for that
Navigation
sort of
is awesome.
stuff, it's really really good. Yeah, navigation, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, actually, like looking at it like this side by side it's actually quite impressive, because I wasn't aware that it's that different, that it makes that big of a difference.
It's just so much
Foursquare
information.
compared to Google.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your next one, Dee?
Oh, okay, great. So there's kind of a little bit related in a way as well.
There's a link.
Everyone knows this app, Airbnb. It's great.
It's great.
There's no other competitor that I would ever that's competing with it for me. I'm going to use Airbnb every time I travel and need to stay somewhere.
Yeah.
So generally amazing. But what I wanted to point out was, when you want to really choose a place, there are some things that, for me, is it just missing. That it makes it really a bit more annoying to have to pick the final place. So, for example, if I want to go to San Francisco with 3 friends or 3 colleagues, then I'm kind of doing this search. Actually, we were saying already today that it's a little like, okay, so it looks like
clunky.
It's a bit clunky now. There seems to be a lot of newer stuff that make it harder to just go, show me the places.
Yeah.
So I think it's this one. And then I get this more kind of stuff. And then it took me actually a while before to figure out that there's actually this little location pin at the bottom. That's the map option.
Which is what you want.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want to see where the places are and pick my place.
Yeah.
So now I've got this map of places. But now what I do, and I'd love to know if other people do this too, is every single time I'm going to stay anywhere new, I'm looking at all these places. I've got my filtered search. I'm like, okay, there's this one here. There's this one here. Maybe there's this one over here. Actually, this is kind of a cool area. Maybe I want to stay there even though it's a bit further away. So I'm thinking, where do I want to be? Where do I need? Well, I'm going to San Francisco for work. We're going to work at a particular office space when we're there. Maybe it's like over on this side of town. But these places might be not so nice to stay in, and I love this area, the Castro in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So how easy is it going to be for me to get from this place that I really like over to every day to this office where I need to work at? So then I always, usually maybe I'm actually on my laptop, computer, but it's exactly the same. Then I'm going back to my old Google Maps to say, now I've got to type this in, to say San Francisco, and then it kind of gives me, hopefully, it did before, gave me the
areas.
Public transport and stuff. Or I would go, okay, where is this place that I really liked? Which one was it? This one. So I want to get to from like Buena Vista Park to, let's just say I'm going to this Transamerica Pyramid and I'm going to work there. So then I go into Google Maps and I type in like, this place, and how long does it take me to get over here? What will the public transport be like? How long might an Uber take?
Yeah.
Oh no, that's too much hassle. Okay, so maybe I'm going to pick one of these other places closer to my location. But then there's a second thing that I really want to do when I'm choosing the place as well, and that is going back over to my old Foursquare. And I don't want to stay in a place, maybe it's close to the office, but it's super boring area and there's not going to be any restaurants and cafes and places to go. So then I'm looking for places in San Francisco and going, okay, no, I don't want to stay in that area because there's no, maybe I need to search again. There's no cool places. Maybe I want to stay somewhere over here. So then I'm going back. So basically my point is, what I would love is if Airbnb would somehow put this, like, show me where the cafes are, show me where the restaurants are, show me where the
So my question there would be, I wonder if that is like the super user, right? Is that the usual, that people are really looking for a place that's like full with restaurants and that's close to this one specific spot, or is that because we're special users
I think my hunch is that this is probably really relevant for business, like people who are traveling for business, because usually like I would do research before I go on a vacation and already know, okay, I want to see this and this and this and this is a cool area. But especially if you're just going for 1 or 2 days, you don't have a lot of time. So maybe you just want to maximize the free time you have by finding like the cool spots that are still close to wherever you're working. And I think that could be such a cool feature to just have like, okay, you want to be here, but if you stay here, you can actually get there just as fast with, I don't know, the light rail or something like that. And there's like a lot more cool stuff happening there. That would be so great for business trips.
It would be great.
It could be also like sometimes you travel to visit a friend and you maybe stay and you want to get somewhere that's easy to get to your friend's place. But I think you're right. It's more for business travelers, but I can imagine completely that it was several years ago now that Airbnb did make some changes to accommodate business travelers, like group bookings that someone else can book and other people can. So this seems like another, like a big market for them, a big potential thing. That to make it super smooth would be good. But then they already have the market as well, so I don't know if it's worth.
But Airbnb is getting more and more expensive as well, so I feel like it is becoming a little bit more geared towards the business traveler. You know what I mean? It's it isn't really for a budget traveler anymore because there's so many extra fees, and actually the prices are quite high. Like they used to be much more affordable, I feel like, but it's really kind of shifted. So that's interesting. Could be
the whole thing's a bit more premium. They've got these premium experiences, and they've got this plus premium kind of homes and stuff now.
Yeah, exactly. Super interesting. Quick, before we transition to Tim's apps, we've been told in the comments that Yelp is something that, I mean, obviously we all know about Yelp, and apparently there's an AR feature of some sort. I don't know what that is. That sounds cool, right?
What's the note? Like you can hold it up.
Fredo Films said Yelp used to have an AR feature. Okay, well, not anymore. I find Yelp just like using it, I just find it kind of ugly. And it makes me sad wanting, like, when a product is just like visually not nice, like it actually deters me from using it. We're supposed to apologize for sorry about the audio issue, everybody. Callum's really sorry, and so are we, because we're a team.
Is it still going? Is it no? Okay, cool.
Yeah, sorry that there was the audio issue. That's really sad. But anyway, that's why I don't use Yelp. I don't know about you guys.
Foursquare for me has just always been actually
nicer.
It feels nicer to use. Everything seems to be a bit more laid out in the way that the things I usually want to see first are there.
Cool. All right, Tim.
Shall we
Let's
switch the cable?
Oh, we're switching the cable.
Ooh. Okay, cool.
Oh, it's not. We're not up on the thing, so it's okay. No one will see the switch. Gosh,
Great.
This is high tech stuff.
Okay, cool.
Here.
So the first thing I want to talk about is a really small, but anyway, so I have to schedule calls with people from different time zones all the time, and it's quite annoying, especially when you're talking to someone and you actually have like a distributed team of people who are not just in another time zone, but they're actually like dispersed across different time zones. So you might have like we had a couple of weeks ago, you might have one guy from San Francisco, one guy from Portugal, and then another guy from New York, and then you have us in Berlin. So when you're talking to them to find like the perfect time when you can have like a catch up with them, the issue is that with like a normal like a table to with like a, what is it, like the world times, or
Yeah.
what is that usually called?
Converted time.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
that's usually you have to do like some calculations in your head if you're trying to juggle things around, especially if some person says, actually I can only do it like half an hour later, and then suddenly you're back to square one. So one thing that this is pretty much what this usually looks like. You just have the current time and the time in another time zone. But if I wanted to like quickly, like check out like what is actually the time, like let's say we want to have a call 9 in the evening here, so it's maybe in the morning for those guys. Is that still okay for the person in San Francisco? So that's going to be very tricky. But then I found an app called Miranda, and it's a pretty well designed app. I mean, what I really like about this is you can just like quickly add a new location here. So you can see that I already have San Francisco, Boulder, Colorado, and New York in here. And what I really like about this is that you have this wheel here on the side where you can just change the time, and then I can quickly see, okay, so 9 in the morning for us, it's going to be 1 a.m. in Boulder, so that's not going to work out for them. So let's just like, it's just really nice having
is
it
very
having
cool.
it like
Amazing.
side by side like that. And it's a really small utility, but I have used it so often already, and it's just executed very nicely. For such a small app, I think I'm always amazed when, like one developer is creating something that is so useful and they actually put so much thought and care into it. It's just a joy to use, I think. I mean, there are so many little details that I really love about this.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I actually use weirdly often. I mean, okay, like it doesn't happen too often that we have like people from different time zones, and like we have this where we have these like scheduling conflicts. But when it happens, then I'm so happy to have this app on my phone.
It's super interesting
Yeah.
because like in terms of like people are downloading less and less apps these days, right? Like it's harder and harder to get someone to actually download an app. But would you say that if like let's say you were to create an app of some sort of product, would you maybe gear more to, because this seems like it's not something that's going to be like widespread, it's not going to be on everybody's
Yeah.
phones, like there's no real maybe growth strategy for it, but maybe that's a really good thing, like
Yeah.
doing something super specific for
Yeah.
a very small group
Yeah.
of people
Yeah.
Could be kind of the way to go in terms
Yeah.
of
Is this
That's-
paid as well? Did you pay
I
for this?
think I paid for it. I'm not entirely sure if it was like freemium. I mean, I prefer to pay. Like, I hate having ads in my apps. So,
I don't know what the free and premium features would be.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, I think in this case, I'm not
Big.
entirely sure. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was like free, completely free, or if I paid for it. But I think they might have had ads in there maybe in the
Yeah.
beginning. But maybe I'm mixing it up with another app. I'm not entirely sure. But honestly, for an app like that, I would also just gladly pay. I mean,
Yeah.
I find that usually I would rather. I mean, when I see an app that is coming from a small developer and it's paid, then I immediately somehow trust it more, and I assume that, okay, this is a person who takes that product really seriously. They are asking money for it, so I can assume that they also keep developing it and like adding supporting the product, being available for answering questions. And in this case, I think it's definitely worth it. Especially, I mean, the prices in the App Store are not going to
break the bank.
Break the bank, exactly. I mean, there are a couple of apps I'm going to show that are actually quite expensive for something on the App Store, but I think, I don't know. I just trust like paid apps way more. And really good question on this kind of like niche market thing. I mean, I think I agree. I mean, if you're a smaller, product company, or even just like a solo developer, I think just finding something, like some niche that is kind of like underserved by other bigger players, and just making the perfect product for that space is probably the way to go, especially with something like a time conversion tool. I think this is probably something that's quite easy to develop. Like, just, it's not going to, it's not reinventing the wheel. Like, this app is not doing anything that couldn't be done just by like calculating stuff in your head, but it's just geared towards a use case that I think a lot of other of these tools are ignoring. So I think there was some, like, the person who developed this had a really nice idea, I think, and he executed it really, really well.
Anytime, like if you've just sent once an email to a client or someone with the wrong time calculation, that's enough to be, I'm going to pay for something. That
and I mean, there are like these little cool details. Like let's say I want to get really granular and do it by the minute. I mean, it's just like,
that's cool.
I mean, I don't know,
beautiful.
like it's such a cool thing to see, like somebody like even like having so much like pride about like what they're putting out there instead of just a cash grab or something like that. The
thing about this that is kind of cool is that it's such a lot of people would think about that and be like, oh, it's such a small problem, but it's a really painful problem.
Exactly.
It's small and it happens like rarely, but it's such a pain that it's actually worth having this app on your phone. It's really cool. Okay, what's your next product, Tim?
Let's see. The next one I want to talk about is Notion. So I should, I know, Brittany, you're using this too. I think, I should mention that usually I'm using this on my desktop. I mean, it's not the app I would, like, the primary use case, I think, is not like doing it from your phone, but I think it's still really, really useful to have this. So if you haven't heard about Notion, it's, how would you describe it? I mean, it's somehow doing everything. And
it's everything it's like I would say mostly it's like an organizational tool, but for everything.
Exactly. It's like if you somehow combined a database tool with a to-do app. And
note-taking,
calendar. Exactly. Like and that sounds super horrible. Like that could easily be the most complicated overwrought tool imaginable. But
would you call it a project management tool?
You can definitely use it for that. I mean, I think that's probably like the most likely use case. But what I really like about this is that it's extremely flexible, and so you can customize it to your own needs. It can be as lean or as complicated as you need it to be. And it's also allowing you to quickly create exactly what you need and have other people use it at the same time. So one thing that you can do, for example, is let's see what's in here. So you're starting off with kind of like an empty slate, and then you can just like turn it into whatever you want to do. So let's just say this is called Love Stream.
Ooh, I love it. That's much better. Much better than a live stream.
Live stream, and I want to turn this into like a page with an icon, and then I can just add stuff here. Just it's just like you can create this. It's almost like a sandbox where you can create exactly what you need. And you can kind of like nest different elements within each other, which is really cool. And it's all drag and drop. Like it's super easy to do. It's not like this tedious process where you have to, like use building blocks. And I mean, I pretty much started using this as the CMS for my personal website because my personal website is super small. I don't really need it anyway. And I used to run it on WordPress, which is already pretty simple, I would say. But this is even easier, and you can just.
So you've made a page that's like your website, and you're just directing people to that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you
that's
can.
Great.
Let's see. You can just get the URL for whatever you create, and in my case, I just forwarded my personal email URL to that thing. And it's so much easier for me to update things. I don't know why.
There's no front
isn't doing
front end.
No, there's basically no separation between front end and back end. I mean, everything that, like, if I invited you to this page, you would see exactly what I was working about. I mean, this is actually maybe the one shortcoming that I see, that dealing with permissions is a bit. I mean, that feels still a little bit weak to me. I mean, this is something that maybe like a tool like Jira would probably do a bit better. Like this is probably more for, like power users from bigger, from bigger teams who actually have to manage permissions like on a very granular level. So if I created, like, let's actually take a look at, let's see, the product team Kanban. hope nothing's super confidential on here.
Oh, the client list.
Yeah, anyway, I can invite people to this, but I can't really tell them what they can and they can't do. For example, I mean, the idea for the Kanban, for example, is that people can only pretty much add stuff to this thing here, but I can't actually define that anywhere.
Okay.
So either I just give them permission to just view it or edit it completely. And I mean, I'm quite new to this tool as well, so maybe I just didn't find that function yet.
Right, yeah.
But honestly, this product pretty much turned into, like, I'm using this for everything now, just
me
because
too.
it's so powerful.
Like your to-do lists.
From
Calendar. Like I even like everything, like I don't use my notes anymore, my notes app. Like I just use Notion because you can put a note inside of you can have like a project and then put a note inside of there and then have other things and everything's in the same place.
Yeah.
And it's just like one tool for everything.
What about, I have a question because I've used like Jira, Confluence and these other wiki tools, and we're using a different one now here at AJ and Smart for our kind of internal documentation.
Yeah.
What's the problem called? Where things get out of date quickly, and then you have this bloat of information and you're not sure which is up to date and which is not. Maybe you've just started using it too recently. How long have you been using it?
Maybe 8 weeks or something like that. Yeah.
Because
but I've only started using it like seriously like maybe for like 4 weeks. So just like trying. Actually, that was actually something that Fedor found for me for a sprint as a Lightning demo. So then I started like trying things out, and I was like, this is actually quite cool.
You can embed everything. You can actually, I think you can also like upload Figma files in it.
Yeah. Oh my
God. You can embed YouTube videos or videos from the other one, Vimeo. And it's just like, it's so, that's the one thing that I think a lot of people are talking about is maybe it's too robust. But if you figure out a way to use it that works for you, I think it's pretty, there's nothing really better out there that I've found.
Can I ask another question? Do we have time? Are we going okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
How, like now, with you guys telling me about this, I'm thinking maybe I should just never use Google Docs ever again. Maybe this will be my new thing. What would there be anything missing if I would just
Is there real time? I don't think there's real time collaboration.
Real-time.
There is. There
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, one of our clients actually used Notion exclusively. Like they only used Notion for everything. Like they had tons of documents in there. I could actually see people going through the documents and typing stuff up.
Yeah.
So it is very similar to Google Docs in that regard.
Because you can't embed YouTube videos inside of Google, can you? And Figma files
no.
spreadsheet.
Definitely not Figma files, right?
Okay.
What about have you ever used Evernote? Either of you guys?
No, actually.
I tried to get into it a couple of years ago, but I somehow could never.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was I don't know why, because I know people who love it and they, they're such big fans, but somehow it never really struck a chord with me.
Yeah, I know. I never really got started.
I have no idea why, because I know it's a really cool product. It just feels like almost like a little bit too heavy for some reason. For just simple, like collecting these scraps of things that you later need to use again, it just feels somehow a little bit too like it's too powerful in a way.
Right. Yeah.
For what I need, because usually when I need to take notes, I'll just actually like write it down on a Post-it, and if I need to keep it for some reason, I'll take a photo of it and then put it in my Dropbox, and that's it.
I use Simple Note. Shout out if anyone else does. It's the simplest note-taking thing ever.
You're kidding, Dee.
Oh my God. It's just like everything that, like you just said, Tim, if there's a thought, it just goes in there, and it never gets bloated because it just scrolls, like I keep adding new notes and they just disappear from my mind after I don't need them anymore. But as soon as I think, where was that shopping thing that I need before I type shopping? It's there. And it just has the most powerful search and the simplest interface.
That's cool.
I've used it for years now. Like,
wow.
I don't know how many years, 7 years.
Simple Note. I just asked in the comments if anybody uses it, so we'll see. Simple Note. Yep, somebody uses it.
Yeah.
One person. No,
Yay.
there might be more. Yeah.
Who is it?
It's
Joydeep. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Tim. Next up.
Cool. Next up is a camera app called Haylight. This is again a case where a very small team created something that is so incredibly polished and nice. So Halide, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's essentially giving your phone almost the powers of a digital SLR.
Put it on something more interesting.
Yeah, actually, let's see.
There we go.
No, I said more interesting.
So, I mean, I don't know, like if you're like me, you'll use your phone as a camera almost every day. I mean, I used to be pretty big into photography, like with like actual cameras, and hey everyone, that's not awkward at all. So
what does it
but
do?
since I got my first iPhone, I'm actually using my iPhone way more just because I have it on me all the time. And the camera is actually really, really good for just a point and shoot. And the one thing that is maybe a bit annoying with the iPhone is that the camera is almost doing a little bit too much for you. So the photos will always be okay, but especially when you're like shooting in like difficult light situations, like it's a nice, like the sun is going down, the sky looks really awesome.
Yeah.
You just can't capture it because the camera will kind of like almost... it will kind of just like not get what you actually want to shoot. So the nice thing about Halide is that it gives you essentially camera control. So you can actually like change the focus of the lens, which is something that the normal iPhone camera, like the built-in camera, doesn't do. You can also
It's cool that it can like
change.
Like it uses the iPhone camera, but that's interesting.
I think it's even more powerful on the iPhone 10 just because the camera is even better than on this one. But
Put on something.
Cool. So again, this is a really very thoughtful interface. It does a lot of things, but it's somehow very like I can even focus on that smudge. So it's really great. So another thing that I can do is I can actually export photos as a RAW file. So instead of a JPEG,
Cool.
and that's actually makes a pretty big difference because in the end, if you guys don't know, if you are shooting with a normal iPhone camera, it's usually just saved as a JPEG or some weird new format. I don't know what the new format is. Anyway, it's something like that.
Yeah.
In any case, when you try to edit the photos later on your computer, you can't really do too much with it because a lot of information got lost. So here you can actually save photos as a RAW file, just as if you took it from a digital SLR, and you can do a lot more stuff with it in the end. And you can actually fix a lot of problems later on your computer when you're editing. And I think like there's so many nice little flourishes in here as well.
Too. Yeah, flourish us.
Okay, let's see.
Let's look.
So I'm just going to put this in autofocus. Or actually, let me just try. Okay, this is... Okay, this is great. Let me...
Tim is such a good photographer. This is great.
Yeah, perfect. Great.
Okay.
So cool. So we have taken a bunch of photos here, and so you can see here that actually the light is like blown out here just because it's too bright outside. This is now something that I could actually fix in Photoshop way easier.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right.
Yeah, and one more thing I want to show you guys is that let's see, how do I actually get back now to the Okay.
So this is, I mean, there's so many photo apps, right?
Yeah.
Like so many of them. How did you find this one, and why did you choose this one?
Right.
This one was actually recommended to me by our colleague Amr, who uses it all the time. He's also taking a lot of photos with his phone. And I mean, I don't know. They're also doing a really good job, I think, presenting how they present themselves. Because, again, this is actually an example of a very niche product that is doing one thing that no other product is doing, and doing it really, really, really well. And there's a lot of like polish and thought, like and care they put into this app as well. I think the price is premium for an iPhone app. I think it's something like $6.99 or something like that. So that's actually extremely expensive.
Yeah.
But easily worth it. I mean. this is again one of these cases where I would rather pay to support developers who really care, who put a lot of work into that, and also use that money to put out more interesting products as well. So
I think that's a good point because some people, like I think most people in the App Store would never pay $6.99 for that, but like I'm talking about most people. But then if you think about the kinds of people that are going to want to use that kind of product, they would pay, and I think that's the difference, right? Like. It depends on what your product's doing.
Yeah, I think you can actually make a lot of money from people who are interested in a niche product because they I don't know, let's say I came up with the best app for people who are into fly fishing or something like that.
Yeah.
Not that I know anything about that, but it's a
hot tip, fly fishing.
Get into fly fishing, exactly. No, but I mean, because what these people need is so specific that if you are familiar with that market and you can create something that is perfect for these people, if you ask them to pay $5 for an app like that, I think if it's useful for them, they will do that way more likely than if you try to create, like a new Flappy Bird clone, and then you're trying to make money by putting ads in it.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, that's also, I guess, a valid strategy, but I think the difference is that on the one hand, you have users who actually care about what you created. They paid money for it, and they will actually become this really engaged community. So they will also tell you what they want next. And on the other hand, you have like this very kind of like, cheap and easy cash grab where you're just like hoping that one of these like little things somehow sticks and maybe becomes like this viral hit or something like Flappy Bird. But I mean, where's Flappy Bird now? Like, nobody cares.
Where is Flappy Bird
I mean, I think the guy
now?
got really rich from it, so more power to
he's
him,
probably
but
doing all right.
Yeah.
I just thought of something that's more for physical, like discovering or find this whole problem of maybe you want a phone, a better camera app for your phone, or maybe you really want a solution to a problem, but there's so many apps. How do you know where to start? Or do you ask people? Do you just like go through the top list on the app stores?
Yeah.
There's this great site that maybe a lot of people know. I think you use it as well, but it's more for physical products. Like when I wanted to buy new headphones, I looked there. When I wanted to buy a new hair straightener, I looked
cool.
there.
What
The
is
wire
it?
cutter. You use that as well.
The wire.
Yeah, all the time,
And I don't know if it has digital products as well. That would be very
I think they
interesting.
have
But it's
apps.
great.
Yeah, they have
They have
apps.
apps too.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Something, yeah.
I've got to remind myself to go back there. But if you just need like a toaster or home audio system, they've just reviewed all of the top ones and really used them. Not just reviewed them on the surface, but really used them for like 3 months. Reviewed them and rated them and given you a big breakdown of.
Oh, okay, so it's not a community run site.
No,
It's like
it's
okay.
real
Experts,
people
reviews.
who,
Oh,
and
I
this
like that
is
so
number
much
one
better.
for the price, and this is number one for the cheap
Yeah.
options and stuff like that. It's
Great.
fantastic.
The Wirecut is really great. I think they got acquired by the New York Times now.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Okay, quick question for you, Tim, about that product, which is what is it called again?
Halide.
Halide. Can you do it for video? Is it for video as well, or is it just photos?
No, it's only for photos.
Only photos.
Yeah.
And then the second question is, when it comes to like saving raw files on your phone, how is that for memory?
It's pretty bad.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
so the way they market this app is also interesting. I mean, they're saying this is for people who are interested in photography. So it's definitely not something you would do for just a quick snapshot of, like something you want to remember.
Yeah.
It's more if you see something really nice and you actually want to do something with it later, then you would use that, because it's true, raw files are really gigantic compared to JPEG. So like when I started using Halide, I went a bit overboard, and then like after one day my phone's memory was completely packed with photos. So
I can imagine.
it's something you have to be aware of for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to look at Zero?
Do we have time?
I mean, we definitely been going for 45 minutes.
Okay. then maybe let's not go into it.
We'll save a few apps for next time.
Yeah,
I think that's
exactly.
important. But thank you guys so much, whoever watched. It seemed like there were quite a few people popping in and out. Obviously, this is all, if you missed the first part, it's going to be available online afterwards. And thanks for all your comments and questions. And thanks, Dee and Tim,
Thanks,
for bringing
Brittany.
your products to the table.
Thanks, everyone.
And if you guys liked this kind of video, this kind of live stream where we're actually looking at products, talking about them, let us know, because then we'll keep doing it if it's something that you're interested in. Cool, thanks. Bye.
Yay,
Oh, like
bye.
and subscribe. Should I say that? Okay. Carol says yes. Like and subscribe. We love you.
Like and
Bye.
subscribe.